When a poor girl wears trash bags, you won't believe what this millionaire CEO did next. It was the kind of day that begged for a scandal, a twist of fate that would echo through the marbled halls of luxury. When Mia Hastings, a girl whose name was whispered alongside words like struggle and survival, arrived at the opulent gala in a dress made entirely of trash bags, all eyes turned. The crowd, draped in designer gowns and tuxedos, gasped as she walked in, her outfit rustling like the sound of crumpled paper. Who would dare? Mia wasn't just wearing trash bags. No, she was making a statement, weaving her pain and resilience into every fold of plastic. The lights glinted off her unconventional dress, creating a bizarre beauty that stopped people dead in their tracks. There was shock, laughter, and then a wave of empathy as whispers spread like wildfire. Did you hear about her past? Can you believe she came in like that? The air was thick with intrigue, electricity surging through the crowd, and then there was Alexander Hale, the millionaire CEO whose reputation was as polished as the marble floors beneath them. He had built an empire from scratch, and every investor knows the power of a good story. He stood across the room, a cocktail in hand, and watched Mia with an intensity that drew people's gazes. Something about her raw confidence, the way she reclaimed her narrative with that trash bag gown, pulled at the fabric of his perfect world. Was he intrigued? Amused? Or was it something more? Every heartbeat echoed a bigger question: what would Alexander do next? The tension coiled thick around them. Would he confront her? Dismiss her? There was a palpable shift in the air, a collective breath held in anticipation. Just as the whispers rose into a hum, Mia caught his eye, her own heart racing. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash the like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Mia straightened her back, the sensation of hundreds of eyes trained on her. The sound of clinking glasses faded, and all she could hear was the pounding of her own heart. Alexander took a step forward, determination etched on his handsome face. As he moved through the crowd, a wave of murmuring swirled. What did he want with her? Right before he reached Mia, he stopped, eyes narrowing as a flash of uncertainty crossed his features. The moment stretched like taffy, filled with biting curiosity. What could a millionaire possibly want with a girl in trash bags? The final tension snapped, ripe for surprise. Did this bold meeting hold the promise of change, or were both of them trapped in destinies they couldn't escape? The crowd leaned in, all senses alive with anticipation. Why was the CEO staring so intently? Would he reach out a hand and offer help, or was there a darker plan? One thing was certain: the night was only just beginning, and the stakes were higher than ever. Alexander's eyes held a storm of emotions, unfamiliar curiosity mixing with something deeper, darker. He took a steadying breath, finally breaking through the invisible barrier between them. Mia Hastings, he said, his voice cutting through the murmurs, smooth yet commanding. Mia's heart leapt into her throat. How did he know her name? The moment felt electric, and she found herself completely caught off guard. And you are? She smiled, trying to maintain her composure despite the fluttering panic in her chest. Mia, you've become quite the topic of discussion tonight. He stepped closer, and she could smell the expensive cologne mixed with a hint of something raw and captivating. Her pulse raced. Why did it feel like the world had shrunk down to just the two of them? The trash bags, they're a bold choice, he said, his lips curling into a slight grin that made the corners of her stomach twist. But I have to wonder what's the real story here. The crowd held its breath, anticipation thick as the fabric of her dress. It seems the million-dollar question, she replied, matching his gaze with a fierce determination. But do you really want to know? This time, his surprise was palpable. Yes, I do. He leaned in slightly, as if sharing a secret, his voice low. But I think it's more than a fashion statement, isn't it? The audacity of his inquiry took Mia aback, igniting a flame within her. She felt seen in a way she hadn't experienced for years, more than just an oddity at a gala, but a story worth uncovering. In that moment, everything outside of them faded: the lavish surroundings, the well-heeled guests, the eyes that once scrutinized her now merely witnesses to this unfolding drama. It's about more than the fashion, Alexander. It represents my struggle, my history. The trash bags symbolize the decisions I faced in life. I wore them to show that I can rise above where I came from. His expression softened as he absorbed her words, but the tension in the air remained. You're brave, he said, his tone earnest. Most people wouldn't dare. And yet here I am, she replied defiantly, a hint of a smile teasing her lips. Just then, the atmosphere shifted. Across the room, the tension broke when a loud crash echoed through the gala. A chandelier trembled ominously, sending crystal shards spraying onto the dance floor. Gasps rippled through the crowd, eyes widening in shock. Before anyone could react, a figure darted through the commotion, an unkempt man, wild eyes darkened by fear, bursting into the gala like a bolt of lightning. Help! They're coming for me! He shouted, panic lacing his voice. Mia and Alexander exchanged a look, dread cascading through Mia as she recognized the chaos threatening to engulf their moment. The music stopped, silence clawing at the air as whispers morphed into a clamoring roar. Alexander's protective instincts kicked in. He stepped in front of Mia, shielding her from whatever was about to unfold. Stay back! He commanded, his demeanor shifting from intrigued businessman to fierce protector. Mia felt her heart race again, but this time it wasn't from Alexander's presence. It was from the fear lurking in the shadows, mingling with the chaos around her. Who was that man? And why were they after him? As the tension spiraled, another question loomed larger. In the whirlwind of wealth and vulnerability, were they both about to be caught in something far more dangerous than either had anticipated? The night held a chilling unpredictability, and in that instant, everything felt like it was on the verge of unraveling. What lurking danger awaited? And would their fates intertwine in a way neither could foresee? The tension rose like a wave crashing against sharp rocks as the man's frantic eyes searched the crowd, landing on Alexander and Mia. You have to help me, please. His voice shattered the silence, urgency clinging to every syllable. Mia could feel her heart pounding in her chest. Who was he? Why was he so terrified? The air turned thick with uncertainty, the glamour of the gala now a distant illusion. Suddenly, a group of stern-looking men appeared at the entrance, their eyes scanning the room with predatory intensity. They wore dark suits, but there was nothing formal about their demeanor. Their faces were set, the lines deep with a threat that sent chills down Mia's spine. Get away from him! One of the men barked, stepping forward, his gaze fixed on the wild-eyed stranger. The air crackled with danger. Mia's instincts screamed at her to run, but she was rooted to the spot, a deep-seated curiosity driving her forward. What were they after? The unkempt man pointed, voice shaking. They're after the information I have. They'll kill me if I don't get help. Information? Alexander's voice dripped with skepticism, but the tension in his body told a different story. He hadn't let his guard down, his focus unwavering. What kind of information? The wild-eyed man hesitated for a split second, his breath ragged, and Mia could see the internal struggle etched across his features. It's about the shipments, the counterfeit money. They're planning to move it through here tonight. Mia's heart stopped. Counterfeit money? Her mind whirled at the implications. This wasn't just a gala, it was a trap that could ensnare everyone present. Alexander, still shielding Mia, took a step forward. What do you mean, move it? Where? Through the back corridors, no one knows. They'll be loading it up soon. The desperation in his voice cracked like glass. Mia could see the gears in Alexander's mind turning. He was weighing the risks, calculating whether it was worth delving deeper into this chaos. Turn around, he ordered the man, his tone sharp. We're not getting you in trouble with those guys over there. But it was too late. The men advanced, their power palpable. The crowd began to scatter, people looking for exits, their luxurious faces now painted with stark fear. Run! Alexander said, his hand grabbing Mia's wrist with a fierce grip. Together they fled into the depths of the gala. The striking decor faded behind them, replaced by the stark, haunting sounds of chaos. They dashed into a nearby corridor, breathless. As they turned a corner, Mia caught a glimpse of the turmoil behind them, shouting voices and the echo of heels on marble. "Why are you helping him?" Mia asked, her voice barely a whisper yet charged with adrenaline. "You could just walk away, Alexander." He turned to her, expression intense. "Because if this is what I think it is, it's bigger than us. We need to know." They pressed deeper into the corridor, hearts racing. Every corner felt like a possible threat, every shadow a potential pursuer. Alexander guided her, eyes sharp, ready for anything. Then a crash echoed from the gala behind them, drawing their attention just for a moment. Mia turned, dread washing over her. "What now?" She breathed, feeling trapped between the danger chasing them and the bleak unknown ahead. Suddenly, the unkempt man darted into the corridor, panic etched across his face. "They're coming! This way!" With hesitation but no other choice, Mia and Alexander followed him. Maybe this was a path to safety, or perhaps an even deeper plunge into the darkness of this chaotic night. Mia's heart raced, poised between fear and exhilaration. What awaited them at the end of this corridor? And in the interplay of greed and desperation, could they emerge unscathed? She gripped Alexander's hand tighter, determined to find out what lay ahead and what cost they would pay for the truth. They plunged deeper into the corridor, the unkempt man leading the way. The dim lighting flickered overhead, and Mia could feel the weight of darkness pressing in from all sides. The frantic thud of their footsteps echoed loudly in the narrow space, mingling with distant shouts from the gala, a nightmare unfolding just beyond the walls. "Where are we going?" Mia gasped, struggling to keep up. "Just trust me," the man yelled over his shoulder, glancing back with wide, terrified eyes. "We need to find the service elevator, it's our only chance." Alexander tightened his grip around Mia's hand, steering her forward. They stumbled into an opening, revealing a cluttered storage room, its walls lined with shelves of forgotten decorations and abandoned tableware. Chaos surrounded them, but in the center stood a rusted door marked with peeling paint that screamed disuse. The man flung the door open, revealing an elevator, but it looked like it hadn't moved in ages. Thick dust coated the floor, and cobwebs clung to the corners like ghosts of past celebrations. "Hurry!" he urged, glancing over his shoulder with growing fear. "They'll follow us in here." Mia's heart raced as the sound of approaching footsteps grew louder. She could almost taste the panic in the air. "Get in!" Alexander urged, pushing her lightly ahead of him before following closely behind. The man jammed the door shut just as footsteps thundered to a halt outside. Breathless silence enveloped them for a heartbeat before the men's voices invaded their hiding place. "He went this way. Search everywhere," one commanded, his voice sharp and commanding. Mia clutched her chest, trying to steady her breathing. "What do they want?" she whispered urgently, the world outside the elevator feeling more dangerous by the second. "The information," the man said, his eyes darting nervously. "They think I know where the shipment is. They'll stop at nothing to silence me." "Then why did you come here?" Alexander shot back, his voice strained yet steady. "You had to know the risks." "Because I had no choice. I overheard them planning the shipment, and I had to warn someone." He sank against the wall, fear written all over his face. I thought maybe you could help." "We need to get out of here," Alexander said, his eyes scanning the dim compartment. "We can't stay trapped." Mia felt a surge of anger and frustration. What about the people at the gala? What if everyone gets caught in the crossfire? "They won't know until it's too late," the man's voice cracked. "I just wanted someone to be aware. But it's all my fault, I should have stayed quiet." "Your fault?" Mia snapped. "You're trying to save lives, your life. We have to figure out a way out of this mess." Just then, a loud bang rang through the corridor, shaking the door. Mia gasped. The men were trying to force their way in. "They'll find us," she exclaimed, panic bubbling up. "We need to act," Alexander said, his voice low but fierce. He looked around the elevator once more, desperation etched across his features. "Do you know how to get this thing working?" Work? It's probably been abandoned for years. The wild-eyed man protested. There's no way it'll move. We'll just get stuck. Or we'll be caught. Alexander countered. It's our only shot. Give me a hand. With their combined efforts, they pressed buttons wildly, praying for a sign of life from the ancient machine. Sweat trickled down Mia's back as her heart raced, each bang from outside sending electric jolts of dread through her body. Suddenly, there was a jolt and the elevator lurched slightly. Mia could hardly believe it. Maybe, just maybe, they would escape. But before she could swallow her growing hope, the door shook violently again, and the sound of shouts amplified. They were almost through. What if this doesn't work? She murmured, her hands trembling. What if we get caught? What do we do then? Ignoring her fear, Alexander squeezed her hand tightly. We trust each other. Whatever happens next, we face it together. And it was in that moment, with the door rattling and the world threatening to collapse around them, that they braced for the possibility of freedom or a devastating confrontation that would change everything. As the elevator began to move, they shared a fleeting glance, understanding that whatever awaited them above could either be their salvation or their undoing. Turning the handle, Mia took a deep breath. What lay beyond the door? Would it be the truth, or something far more treacherous? The elevator creaked and groaned as it ascended, an agonizing reminder of its rusted machinery. Mia's breath quickened anew. She clenched Alexander's hand tighter, terror clawing at her throat. The banging continued, growing louder, and an adrenaline rush coursed through her veins. Can't it go any faster? She pleaded, her eyes widening at the trembling metal frame. There's only so much it can do, the man said. His voice was shaky, filled with rising panic. Sweet Jesus, we need to be quick. For what felt like an eternity, they listened to the chaos above them. The sounds of running footsteps and shouting drifted down through the thin walls, each sound pressing on their nerves like a weight too heavy to bear. Suddenly, the elevator jolted again, but this time, it didn't stop. The lights flickered, and Mia felt her stomach drop. Is it going to break down? I hope not, Alexander pressed. We need to stay calm, but he wore a mask of fear, betraying his words. With a sudden lurch, the elevator halted. An ominous ding echoed through the compartment as the doors creaked open. Mia stared into a dimly lit hallway. The sounds above them faded away momentarily, a brief silence enveloping everything, a calm before the storm. What if they're waiting for us? She whispered. I don't know, Alexander said, his voice low and steady, despite the urgency of the moment. We need to be cautious. The trio stepped out hesitantly. The hallway was eerily quiet. Walls, adorned with fading gold accents, stood as sentinels to their escape. But the path ahead only hinted at increasing danger. Mia's heart thudded painfully against her chest. Stick together, the wild-eyed man urged, glancing over his shoulder nervously. We need to find a way out fast. Mia scanned around, taking in their surroundings. In the distance, faint murmurs and echoes began to rise, pooling anxiety in her stomach. Distant cries filled her ears, and dread washed over her like icy water. Which way? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Left, the man said, pointing towards a shadowy exit. We should head for the service exit near the kitchen. It should be less crowded. Moving cautiously, they crept along the corridor, each footstep a painfully loud reminder of how vulnerable they were. The air was thick with fear. A sudden crash erupted from a nearby room, and they stopped, frozen in place. What was that? Mia whispered, her heart racing anew. I don't know, but we can't stay here, Alexander said, his voice urgent but calm. He pulled her gently along, urging them forward. They turned the corner only to see a chaotic scene unfolding. Gala attendees were being herded by burly men in suits, their faces set in grim determination. Panic rippled through the crowd. Some guests screamed while others looked on, gripping champagne flutes like lifelines. Look! The wild-eyed man hissed, pointing to a door marked with an exit sign. That's our way out. But moving through the crowd was risky. They could easily get caught in the chaos. A surge of panic swept over Mia. What if we can't get past them? They won't expect us to risk it, said Alexander, his determination shining through. We'll blend in. Taking a deep breath, they pushed through the throng, weaving between bodies dressed in finery, trying to act as if they belonged. Mia's heartbeat thudded louder than whispers of wind through the crowd. Suddenly, a figure turned toward them, a man with piercing eyes and an intimidating frame. He seemed to assess them in a heartbeat. Mia's breath caught, her body tensing in fear. Get ready, Alexander murmured, inching closer to her, preparing for a burst of speed. But at that moment, the man called out. Hey! You too! Where do you think you're going? Panic surged through Mia. There was no escaping now. Run! Alexander shouted, yanking her hand as they sprinted toward the exit. The surge of adrenaline pushed them forward as chaos erupted behind them. Mia's heart raced, the stakes rising as they dashed through the door. But what lay beyond? A way to safety, or more danger awaiting them just outside, as the door swung shut behind them, they came face to face with the night, both freeing and haunting. The thrill of possible escape mingled with the certainty of pursuit. What would they find outside? Would they be hunted or finally safe? The night awaited, and the truth was only a heartbeat away. The cool night air hit Mia like a tidal wave, cutting through the residual heat of panic and sweat that clung to her. She stumbled forward, still gripping Alexander's hand tightly, the reality of their escape washing over her like a suffocating wave. The disarray of the gala faded into the background, but their troubles were far from over. You okay? Alexander glanced at her, concern etched across his face. Just breathe, Mia replied, trying to steady her racing heart. They were outside, but the thrill of relief was a fragile thing. The street was dark, lit only by the flickering glow of a nearby street lamp and the dim reflections off nearby windows. Their breath formed small clouds in the chilly air, and a sense of dread settled over them like a shroud. Suddenly, the echo of hurried footsteps reached their ears, heavy, determined. The thrill of the night twisted into terror once more. They're coming! The man gasped, his wild eyes scanning their surroundings. We need to hide. Where? Mia's voice rose in urgency, a lump forming in her throat. There! Alexander pointed wildly at a narrow alley just beyond the light. With no option left, they took off, their feet pounding against the cold pavement. They ducked into the alley, cloaked in shadows. Mia pressed her back against the damp brick, nearly losing the grip on Alexander's hand in the process. The darkness enveloped them, swallowing any hope of being noticed. Stay quiet, he urged, his breath hitching as they strained to hear the pursuit. The heavy footsteps grew closer, and then halted just outside. Mia's heart pounded against her ribcage, a constant reminder of their fragility. What if they find us? She whispered. They won tea. Just hold on. Silence enveloped the alley as they pressed closer together, the air thick with fear. The world beyond felt infinitely distant. Suddenly, a voice broke through the night. Where did they go? A man called out, his tone low but commanding. Mia flinched, watching as shadows danced across the alley's mouth. She could almost make out the men, their silhouettes framed against the meager light. Keep searching, they can't have gotten far, came another voice, brimming with urgency. The hairs on Mia's neck prickled. Fear coursed through her veins, icy and paralyzing. What if they did find them? Would they be dragged back into that chaos? They're just scared. We'll find them. Mia wanted to scream, to cry out for help, anything to break the suffocating grip of helplessness. But the danger demanded silence. As the footsteps once more began to fade, a glimmer of hope flickered inside her. We need to get out of here, she murmured, tension tightening her chest. Alexander nodded, peeking out to ensure it was clear. Let us move while we can. They slipped further down the alley, the scent of trash and damp earth surrounding them. It felt like they were making their way through a twisted labyrinth, every corner another chance for danger to leap out and snatch them away. Suddenly, Alexander stopped. What's that? Mia froze, her eyes locking onto a flickering glow at the end of the alley. Keep low, he whispered, inching toward it. A doorway glimmered with the faint outline of a neon sign open. Do you think we should? Mia started, but Alexander was already moving, determination etched across his face. He reached for the handle, and just as he pushed it open, a scream echoed through the night, sending shockwaves through Mia's entire being. It was followed by shouting urgent and savage along with the unmistakable sound of heavy boots pounding against the pavement. Run! She gasped, grabbing Alexander's arm and dragging him inside just as the door swung shut behind them. Inside, the atmosphere shifted, an intoxicating mix of tension and uncertainty looming in the air. What secrets awaited them in this new space? Were they truly safe now, or was this another trap waiting to spring? Mia felt the weight of impending danger, and the overwhelming unknown settled into the pit of her stomach. The night was still young, but the events were closing in like a snare. Tight and unforgiving. As they stood in the dim light together, the questions loomed heavier than the darkness outside. Would they find a way out, or was this just the next step into deeper peril? The door creaked ominously as it closed behind them, sealing off the chaos of the street outside. Mia leaned against the wall, taking in their surroundings. The dimly lit room was filled with a peculiar mix of neatness and clutter, stacks of colorful fabric rolls randomly scattered alongside elegant sewing machines. A single bulb hung precariously from the ceiling, its flickering light giving everything a surreal glow. Where are we? She whispered, her heart still hammering in her chest. Looks like a tailor shop? Alexander replied, scanning the walls adorned with sketches of beautiful designs. Maybe we can find a way out through the back. Just as he reached for what seemed to be a back door, voices drifted through the walls, muffled and urgent. The pair froze. It was a sound they'd heard it before. The very men who hunted them down at the gala were hot on their trail again, now just feet away. Did you check the alley? One voice shouted, desperation lacing his tone. No sign of them. But they couldn't have gone far, another voice cut in, rough and impatient. Mia's stomach twisted. Alexander, what do we do? She fought back tears, feelings of fear and uncertainty mixing into a vortex of dread. Listen, he instructed, pulling her closer to the wall. If we can find a way to the back, we can slip out before they find us. Just then, the back door creaked open slightly, and Mia's breath caught in her throat. A shadow emerged from the doorway, silhouetted against the faint light outside. It moved silently, glancing around with hawk-like intensity. Mia, stay quiet, Alexander warned, his grip tightening around her arm, heart racing. She held her breath as the shadow stepped further into the room. It was a tall man, dressed sharply, with a chiseled jaw and piercing blue eyes that scanned the interior. He looked like he belonged in a boardroom, not a cramped tailor shop. What are you doing here? He whispered hoarsely, noticing them. Who are you? Mia stammered, unsure if he was a threat or their savior. Someone who can help, he said, a secretive smile creeping onto his lips. But only if you trust me. Before Mia could respond, the pounding footsteps of their pursuers grew louder. The man's expression shifted, urgency etched into his features. We don't have time. Follow me. Alexander hesitated. No. We can't just trust anyone. Do you want to get caught? The man snapped softly, glancing back towards the door. Hurry. With little choice, they bolted after him, deeper into the back of the shop. A labyrinth of fabric and tools surrounded them. The man ducked through a narrow doorway, and without question, Alexander and Mia followed. They emerged into a dimly lit hallway, the smell of fresh paint mingling with something fragrant, the scent of spices. The man urged them forward, and just as they rounded a corner, the cacophony of voices turned to shrieks from the street outside. Over here! Alexander yelled as the man led them further down the hall, but their guide halted abruptly, eyes bulging in fear. A shadow loomed large behind them. Panic seized Mia's chest as she turned to see the door they had entered slamming open, men spilling in, faces twisted in fury. Alexander reached for her, desperation in his eyes. The tall man broke into a sprint, pulling them along as they fled down the hallway. The pounding of boots echoed behind them, a grim reminder of how close danger was. With no time to think, They twisted through corridors that felt like a maze, the taste of fear flooding Mia's mouth. Would they find safety, or lead their pursuers straight to them? As they reached a door marked exit, the tall man glanced back, his expression unreadable. You both ready? What's behind this door? Will it lead to safety or more danger? The tall man pushed the door open with a swift motion, and they stumbled out into the night air. Mia gasped, the cool breeze biting at her flushed cheeks. They weren't outside yet, they had emerged onto a narrow fire escape that jutted out over the alleyway below. Get down! He hissed, shoving them toward the edge of the platform just as shouts erupted behind them. The sound of their pursuers filled the hall. They were moments away from bursting through that exit. Adrenaline surged through Mia. She dropped to her knees, peering over the edge to see a hazy pool of darkness beneath them. I can't jump. She stammered, her heart hammering in her chest. Trust me, it's only a few feet. The man said, urgency creeping into his voice as he looked back. The echo of heavy footsteps grew more pronounced. Are you sure? Alexander's voice cracked, his gaze flickering between the empty space below and the door that felt like their only shred of hope. Just go. The man grabbed Mia's wrist, yanking her forward. Before she knew it, he leaped from the fire escape, landing with a soft thud. She watched, heart racing, as he turned up to beckon them. Come on. I'll catch you. A shattering crash sounded behind them. The door splintered under the weight of angry fists. Now! The man's voice urged, and Alexander sprang next to Mia. With a shout from the doorway heralding their imminent capture, they both jumped, landing safely in the man's outstretched arms. The shock of hitting the ground knocked the breath from Mia's lungs, but she scrambled up immediately, fear sharpening her instincts. Run! The man whipped around, dashing down the alley, prompting them to follow. They wove between shadows, the chaotic noises of the city muffling their footfalls. Mia glanced back just in time to see two men flood out of the doorway, scanning the surroundings with raging anger. They shouted, splitting up as they searched. Where are we going? Mia gasped, her lungs burning as they rounded a corner. We just need to get away from that crowd. I know a place. The man guided them down another alley, barely illuminated but laden with the scent of trash and dampness. Each blinding streetlight they passed flickered ominously, as if the city itself conspired against them. As they rushed down a twisting path, her thoughts teetered between gratitude for their rescuer and dread of what lay ahead. The man glanced back, his blue eyes full of intensity. What are your names? Mia, and this is Alexander, Mia replied breathlessly, trying to match his speed. Who are you? Just call me Carter, he said, pushing through a narrow passageway. Time for introductions later. We're not safe yet. They arrived at another door, this one rugged and battered, covered in layers of graffiti. Carter shoved it open, revealing a dimly lit room cluttered with furniture draped in sheets and stacks of old newspapers. Get inside, quick! He urged. They slipped through the door, and as Mia turned, she caught a glimpse of a group at the end of the alley, a gathering storm of men, lighting flashlights and barking orders. Her stomach twisted with uncertainty. This house, was it going to protect them or trap them? Carter pressed his finger to his lips, urging silence. They held their breaths, the tension thickening the air around them. But in the silence, a noise echoed, a low thud, then a soft whisper. Carter, is that you? The sudden familiarity of the voice sent a chill down Mia's spine. Did he have accomplices? She looked at Alexander, panic shimmering in his eyes. What if it's a trap? Carter's expression darkened. He stepped forward. We need to see who it is. Stay here. And before Mia could protest, he slipped through the flimsy door, leaving them in the dim light, the heartbeat of dread thumping louder in the silence. What was waiting for him on the other side? Would they find help or something far worse? Mia and Alexander exchanged anxious glances, their breaths tautening in the thick, stifling air. The whisper faded into silence, swallowed by the darkness that sprawled around them. Mia could feel the pulse of her heart pounding in her ears, a relentless reminder of their vulnerability. She leaned in closer to Alexander, sensing his worry mirrored her own. What if he doesn't come back? She whispered, her voice trembling. Then we need to find another way out. Alexander's words trailed off as he peered cautiously through the grimy window, the shadows dancing wildly in the moonlight outside. The room felt alive, filled with an eerie anticipation. Each creak of the floorboards echoed like an alarm, alerting the world to their fear. Mia shifted her weight as dread coiled tighter around her chest. She considered for a fleeting moment how absurdly normal her life had been just days ago. Now, she was hiding in a rundown room, listening for the return of a man who seemed more dangerous than their pursuers. Minutes stretched like hours. Mia's eyes flicked to the door, hoping to catch a hint of movement. But all that greeted her was an ominous stillness. Suddenly, the door creaked open. The silhouette of Carter appeared in the frame, his body tense and ready for anything. Mia's heart soared with relief but faltered as he stepped inside, alone. Behind him, the darkness swallowed the faint light. "Where's?" Mia started, but Carter held up a hand, cutting her off. "They know we're here," he said, a storm brewing in his blue gaze. "We need to move. Now." "What do you mean they know?" Alexander interjected. "Who's out there?" Carter's face hardened. "A syndicate. They want something, and they're willing to take anyone who gets in their way, people like us." "But what do they want?" Mia felt cold fear wrap around her spine. "A girl," Carter replied, his voice low and unyielding. "And I think they might have a lead on you." Panic splintered inside Mia, radiating to her limbs. "Why? I didn't do anything." He stepped closer, insisting, "It's not about what you did. It's who you are. You're more important than you realize." "What does that even mean?" she snapped, frustration boiling over. Carter turned his gaze to the door, fisting his hands. "Look, we don't have time for this. They're coming, and if we don't get out now, we may not get another chance." He grabbed Mia's arm, pulling her toward the back of the room, where a rickety staircase creaked into the darkness. "This way," he urged. Mia looked at Alexander, who was torn between standing his ground and fleeing. "Carter, what about him?" she asked. "Trust me. He'll be safer with us. Now hurry." They followed Carter up the stairs, the dimly lit corridor above infused with dust and despair. Mia's senses tingled, every footfall felt like a countdown. The air thickened with urgency and trepidation as they reached the top floor, the exit looming at the end of the hallway. Carter reached for the door, his hand pausing. "Do you trust me?" She hesitated, her mind racing. Could she really trust him? Her instincts kicked in, and with a nod, she stole a breath. "Yes." He pushed the door open. They burst out, but the streets suddenly felt alive with danger. Flashlights scanned the area, beams cutting through the dark like knives. Voices shouted commands, their urgency echoing in the night. Mia's heart pounded as Carter yanked them sideways, leading them toward a fire escape. "Stay close." With the shouts of the syndicate echoing behind them, they dashed down an alley, adrenaline fueling their escape. Everything outside felt surreal. The city lights pulsed ominously, shadows merging into one another like living things. Just as they turned a corner, flickers of movement caught Mia's eye. A figure stood ahead, cloaked in shadow, eyes glinting in the low light. "Mia?" Before she could comprehend what was happening, a familiar voice broke through the haze of chaos, but it wasn't just any voice, it was someone she hadn't seen in years. "Ella?" The shock shattered her focus, and in that moment, everything hung in the balance. Would this be a chance for help or a trap set for betrayal? As uncertainty hung thick in the air, the sound of approaching footsteps grew louder behind them. Would they be able to elude their pursuers while facing this unexpected reunion? The moment had arrived, and choices needed to be made. The air trembled with uncertainty as Mia stared at Ella, her childhood friend who had vanished into the shadows of her past. Ella's eyes sparkled with recognition and concern, but the tension between them was palpable. The chaos of the night enveloped them, the sound of distant footsteps only heightened their urgency. "Mia! I thought you were gone." Ella gasped, her hand instinctively reaching toward Mia's shoulder, grounding her in this moment of familiarity amidst fear. "There's no time. We need to move." Alexander shouted, gripping Mia's wrist and glancing back toward the approaching danger. But Ella shook her head, urgency flickering in her gaze. "What are you doing here?" she pressed, her voice low and frantic. "It's complicated. We're in danger, and we need your help." Mia responded, her heart pounding like a drumbeat, all memories resurfacing while terror thrummed beneath the surface. Suddenly, Ella's composure shifted. "I can help, but we have to get to my place. It's not far from here, and I have a plan." A cacophony of angry voices erupted from the alley behind them. The ruthless syndicate was close. Alexander exchanged a glance with Mia, fear mingling with desperate hope. "Ella, lead the way," he commanded, taking charge. "We don't have much time." As they slipped back into the shadows, Ella guided them down narrow pathways, her movements fluid and confident, much to Mia's surprise. The alleys twisted into a maze, but Ella navigated skillfully, the weight of the world resting on her shoulders. "What do you know about them?" Mia asked, breathless. "Why would they be after me?" Ella glanced back, her expression serious, eyes flickering with urgency. "I overheard them talking. They think you have information linked to something significant. They want to keep you quiet." "Information?" Mia's brain raced through the frantic events of the night. "But I don't know anything." "You're connected to Alexander, aren't you?" Ella countered sharply, and Alexander stiffened, the weight of her accusation heavy. "Only because he started," but Ella interrupted. "Doesn't he matter? We need to focus on safety first, then we can figure it out." As they turned down another alley, Mia felt a surge of determination sweep through the fog of fear. She wasn't a victim in this story, she was a fighter. Memories of wearing the trash bags came rushing back, her statement of resilience illuminating her resolve. "I'm not giving up," she declared firmly. "We'll figure this out together." The alley suddenly opened up into a small courtyard, where a door stood ajar. Ella shot forward, urgency laced with the genuine hope of sanctuary. "This is my place." They ducked inside just in time, slamming the door behind them. The walls were adorned with bright colors, a stark contrast to the impending darkness they had fled. But as the back door rattled, the surge of danger loomed just outside. Carter waited, concern etched across his face. "Are we safe?" he whispered, anxiety rippling through Mia. "For now," Ella stated, glancing out the window. "But they won't stop. They're relentless." "I have a plan, but it involves some risk." Mia nodded. There was a flicker of hope lighting up the corners of her mind. "What's the plan?" Alexander asked, taking charge and glancing back, still on high alert. "We need to make ourselves scarce. I have contacts who can help. They're well connected, and they'll know how to get you out of here safely," Ella explained, determination filling the air. Mia exchanged looks with Alexander, a thread of trust bridging their uncertainty. They had to go all in. "Let us do it," she said, her voice steady. She felt a rush of adrenaline fill her veins, the fire igniting her once more. The cacophony outside grew louder, a sharp reminder that time was running thin. They hurriedly piled clothes and gear into bags, each sound echoing their desperation. "We need a better exit," Carter said, scanning the dim room. "Prepare yourselves for anything." As they crept toward the back window, Ella paused. "You need to trust me." Mia felt her heartbeat match the intensity of the situation, the weight of her decisions heavy, but she nodded, ready for whatever lay ahead. Alexander took a deep breath beside her, preparing to leap into the unknown alongside her. They were in this together now, bound by fate and resilience, the fate of their night balanced on a knife's edge between darkness and possibility. As they climbed through the window, the light of dawn began to shimmer on the horizon. This struggle was far from over, but together they would face whatever came next, united in determination. Whatever happened, they would rise, just like Mia had in that trash bag dress, wearing their experiences boldly as they charged into the uncertain light of a new day, and as they slipped into the dawnlight, the world behind them merged with both a beginning and an end. They stepped toward an unknown future, knowing that together they could navigate whatever storm lay ahead. You need to subscribe now to join us on our journey through these incredible stories. Don't wait another second to be a part of our amazing community. Smash that like button to help us beat the algorithm. Flood the comments with your thoughts and theories. We want to hear from each of you. Where do you think they will go next? And don't forget to share this with 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Act now.